On this episode of Geek Dad Life, we're going to unbox the new He-Man and the Masters of the Universe figures from Mattel. Hello everybody and welcome to Geek Dad Life. It's your host, Jay Glatfelter here. So I did not expect to find these new He-Man and the Masters of the Universe figures today. I've actually been hunting Wave 6 of MOTU Origins, but still it was a nice surprise to find these, mainly because, my son Zach and I have really been loving the new show on Netflix. Now I know it is not for everyone. It's not for, all the late 30s, mid 40-year-olds that grew up with He-Man back in the day, but for kids of today's generation, I think it meets, what they're looking for really well. So my son, Zach, and I have really dug this show, and actually kind of the whole family has gotten into it now. We're 9 episodes in, so we have 1 episode left, the last part of the season finale, so we're watching that tonight, actually. So it was a really nice surprise to find these figures in store. I know they've been hitting retail, but I just didn't know when they would kind of be in my area, and all they had were these 4 figures. 3 of them from kind of the main toy line, and they had He-Man, Skeletor, and Trapjaw. In terms of the case mix, it seemed like there was 2 Skeletors, 2 Trapjaws, and maybe 4 He-Mans. So we'll see how that plays out. And they had a whole bunch of these battle armor He-Mans. Now, I didn't really want to get this one, but I figured, while I was there, while I would be opening all of these up to kind of see what these new figures are like, I was like, I might as well. I'll take the bite so maybe you don't have to. So I figured just do a kind of quick and easy unboxing video here, go through what the experience is of opening these figures and seeing what they're like in hand for the first time. So without any further ado, let's just start breaking into them. And let's start with our main man, He-Man. So really excited. Again, did not have any expectations going to this show because I knew it wasn't for me, but it's actually a pretty darn good show. And it kind of pulls in a lot of different mythologies from, the previous incarnations of He-Man. But it's kind of done in a really new and refreshing way. It definitely has a bit of a Power Rangers vibe. But it has so many crazy colors and action sequences and stuff like that. I know both Zach and now even my younger son Alex are kind of enthralled by what they see on screen. So for whoever is making this show, it is hitting its target demographic really well. So I hope it's successful so that we can get more episodes of the series and maybe even more figures from this toy line. So let's see what these figures are like. These come in under $10. I think it was like $9.80 something or something like that, but under $10. Oops, sorry. Now I will say all of the packages were beat up. I tried to find the nicest ones, but again, the collector was not in mind in terms of the quality of the cardboard or anything else really. So, don't come into this thinking you're going to get a mint on card one unless maybe you get the shipper box, but the bubbles are pretty light plastic. The card is really thin. So keeping like a really nice mint version of these figures, I think is going to be really difficult. So we'll just have to wait and see. But still, for some reason, I'm box cuttering it. All right, so back of the card shows you the power attack action this He-Man has, as well as 2 other figures. You have Skeletor and the new Man-at-Arms, aka Duncan. He wasn't there, so he may be in a different box mix, because it seems like they just put these figures out. But I may be wrong. All right, so that is the box. Now let's look at the figure. Pretty simple, nothing holding him in, except for the bubble. And then he has his power sword. Now, I will say, I hope they do an Atom because, that look of the character is pretty prevalent in the series. But in hand, the legs feel really loosey-goosey. So we'll see how well that stands up over time because these are really top-heavy figures by the feel of it. But overall, looks pretty good. So, something that I tried to do since it looked like the case was just put out was try and pick the best looking paint applications, and they all had different issues with them. So this one had a little mark on the paint on his neck. But his chest crest kind of looked the best, even has a little bit of a smudge, but it kind of bumps up against the bubble, or a few of them bumped up against the bubble. Also, the gauntlets, the paint app on the gauntlets was kind of messy. So this one had kind of the best looking gauntlets, the best looking armor paint applications, and the best face paint applications. So that's what I went with, even though it had that one little mark on the neck. It was kind of really hard to choose between them. But overall, this was kind of the best looking one. Again, not going to fault them too much because it's a kids line, and they put in minimum effort on those. The power sword's pretty simple as well. Looks like it's casted in this gold plastic and then having silver paint on the blade itself. It does have a little attachment here on the back so that you can put it on He-Man's back. So pretty simple, a simple toy. Again, nice, big, bulky for the kids that are going to be watching this show and probably wanting a figure. In terms of articulation, you got a point at the head, kind of a ball joint, but his hair inhibits that a little bit. Not a ball joint at the arm, more of just a swivel, even though it kind of goes in like a ball joint. So there's no range of motion going up or anything like that. And then you have a kind of swivel at the hands. So you can kind of get up, but not do too much in terms of moving the figure around. And then it has kind of a spring action in the abdomen. So you can't really keep it in any one position because it's part of the action feature. And then kind of ball joints at the hips, even though they're a little loose on this figure, which is concerning. And that's it. Yeah, there's no turning anything else. So a pretty simple range of motion. But again, this is kind of a kid's toy line, so it's not trying to be too much. And honestly, the less articulation, the better for a kid's figure. They do not care about articulation the way we care about articulation. The action feature seems pretty cool. But overall, I think a pretty good likeness of the character as we see him in the show. And again, if I had concerns about it standing up, it's actually pretty darn stable when looking at it here. Knock test. Yeah, it's staying up. So even though it's a little loose, I guess the way they set up these feet, it's holding together pretty well. So I say that is a pretty good sign, especially having the sword out. But see, even still, now it's going out a little bit more. Maybe not. I don't know. I would have concerns over time just seeing how those feet hold together. So that could just be my figure specifically. Just my continued luck with with hip joints being too loose. But overall, pretty good. Yeah, see? And then if I put the sword down, the weight kind of takes it and pulls it over. Again, it's a very top-heavy figure just by its character design, so just something to be aware of. All right. Let's move on to Trap Jaw. We'll save Skeletor for last year out of the regular figures. In terms of as he looked in the show, he doesn't really, spoiler alert, I guess. He starts as Cronus and then transitions into Trap Jaw, so don't be shocked if he's not showing up right away. But he will show up, and he's really, really menacing. I kind of didn't dig the look when I first saw it, but in terms of how he eventually shows up in this incarnation, I think is pretty cool. And again, the action sequences are really neat. So you have the figure in the bubble, as well as him on the card back. He has a power attack function, which is shooting this blaster by the looks of it. He also has the swinging ability, which is nice. And then his card back has some cross-sell for He-Man and Skeletor. But still looks pretty good. So let's open this bad boy up. This one feels a lot lighter than He-Man in a weird way. This arm thing is pretty light plastic. And then in moving up his arm and down, the armor kind of goes with him, which kind of looks weird if he's putting his arm up. Just something to be aware of. And then this attachment goes in here, I guess. Just pop it in. Yep, here we go. Who needs directions? I don't. Let's see if it still works with that. I guess you just push it out. It's not like a spring-loaded effect, but it kind of works if you're just doing it with your finger. Kind of. In terms of the paint applications here, you know, it's a more menacing effect on the show. Here with it, just his teeth all being just painted white, it's a little, I don't know, less intimidating. This looks like a bunch of, you know, cotton in his mouth or something like that. But still looks pretty cool. A nice, you know, design for the character, especially on the show. It's an okay representation here on the figure. Again, this is, you know, for kids. It's not supposed to be a super highly detailed, articulated figure. Similar articulation, though, to the He-Man. I kind of got swivel at the arm, and there's swivel at the hand. A little bit of movement, ball joint movement around the neck. The trap jaw, you know, mechanized arm is not as articulated, so it's really just moving up and down. And I guess you can kind of swivel the claw aspect. And again, a little bit loose on the hips. I'll be concerned to see how well this thing stands up over time. Ooh, here we go, right? Yeah, see. That is concerning with these figures. Again, because they're just so, especially trap jaw. I don't really like how it looks with the hand up. So maybe I can put it down. Now again, this table is famous for not being the most stable. It's a plastic table. But even still, that is a pain. It might stand up better on a more normal shelf. Ugh, goodness. That is not good, friends. That is not good. Again, it's a kid figure, so, you know, they're probably not like, I want to put this on a shelf and just look at it. So, you know, keep that in mind. But again, whoever, this needs to be way tighter in here. I appreciate the desire to kind of give it a bit more range of motion in the legs, but everything else is just a tight kind of swivel cut. I think it would have been better here because it wouldn't flare out like this on the side, and it's so loose that this cannon arm just weighs it down, and then it just falls right out. So a bit of a bummer on the trap jaw figure. Again, just my table's really slidey. I'll try it on other tables just to see. I'm gonna try it right now. Yeah, no, it doesn't want to stay up. So maybe, you know, more enterprising people can, and again, without any kind of swivel at the feet, you can't really adjust those. You can't really adjust because of the action feature, you can't really put it back to try and evenly distribute the weight a little bit. But again, knowing that this is going to be extra, right? And they try to make it light. It is lighter, but just the engineering on this one is not great. So if you have expectations of keeping this one upright, you probably want to have to find something to use these peg holes to really just kind of hold it up. Something on this leg, because this one cannot support its weight. So a bit of a bummer there. All right, let's move along here to Skeletor. I really love the design of Skeletor in this show. It's something different. I love how they incorporated Keldor right off the bat. I think that's awesome. And really excited for hopefully this series having more seasons, because I really like the Skeletor in the show. Again, I kind of like everything about it. It's a really fun show, and for the audience it's intended for, my kids freaking love it. Again, they've liked the characters. They've, you know, played with my Origins figures all the time. But I've played a few of the Filmations episodes, and they're not as big a fan, which I can't blame them. I'm not a huge Filmation He-Man fan either, which I know can be controversial to say, but still. I didn't look at the back. There's the back. He-Man, Man-at-Arms. So I'm guessing Man-at-Arms was supposed to be this way, but he was nowhere to be seen. So we'll see how that plays out. Still, you know, in the promo images for that figure, a lot of translucent plastic. It looks really, really cool. But out of all the figures, I was probably the most excited for the Skeletor figure, just because this design looks so awesome. And I love his transformation from Keldor into Skeletor. I thought was really cool. Just the kind of the interpersonal family drama I thought was fun. And again, like this Skeletor is just hamming it up in the show. It kind of strikes the perfect balance for what you would want Skeletor to be. Menacing, scary, funny, campy, all of the above. I think they've done a really good job with Skeletor in this new show. He has a Havoc staff, which looks pretty cool. Pretty simple, though. Just cast it in this, I guess, navy blue plastic. Not really purple. Dark blue, purple blue. So there we go. He holds the Havoc staff. Again, now the true test. How it's super loose on these hips, which is unfortunate. He has the same swiveling action, which is cool. Not really any movement on the head, so just be aware of that because he has the hood, but you can't even like move it inside of the hood, so just be aware of that. Same articulation otherwise, kind of just swivels at the arms and hands, and then kind of ball joints at the hip, which again I think is an engineering miss for sure. But this one does stand up. So 2 out of the 3 I've gotten, the He-Man and the Skeletor stand up, which is nice. The Trap Jaw, unfortunately, does not. So something to be aware of there. But again, absolutely love this character design for Skeletor. And, his action feature works. Simple, but effective. It's essentially the same one the original toys had. But yeah, I think he just looks so freaking cool. This is my fave of the wave so far. All right, and then let's take a look at our first kind of deluxe figure, our big figure in his battle armor. Now, if this shows up in the last episode, that's where it'd have to show up because I haven't seen it yet. I don't love it just from the packaging, what we're seeing in the packaging, but who knows? Maybe once I actually see it in the episode, it'll seem way cooler than it appears on this toy. So I think they've touted that this has more articulation or something. It's double the price. That's all I know for sure. And it seems to have more accessories, but less paint applications because the sword is just, one color. I think I mentioned this on Toy Geek, so it's kind of a bummer that the bigger, more expensive figure didn't have the same level of paint applications as the cheaper figure. So this power sword is gold with the silver. This is just a big piece of kind of silver plastic, which is a bit of a bummer. Now, if the other ones were top heavy, this one's definitely top heavy. But more articulation, which was promised. Go back a little bit. So the armor does pretty much come off rather easy, actually. And then you're left with this kind of core figure with brown, yellow, and red, which is an interesting color combo. I'm a Padres fan, so I like the yellow and brown. But the red kind of throws off my Padres look here. Same kind of, hip kind of ball joints. A little more stable, though. These are a bit tighter than the normal retail release figures have been so far. And you also have an extra articulation here at the elbow, which is a ball joint. And you have ball joint at the shoulder, which is nice, too. So more articulation and more functional articulation than the retail release figures. And again, the head, okay, yeah, it's a little gummy, but it is kind of a ball joint, so you can get some different range of motion with that. It was tough finding kind of the best paint. This was kind of the best one I could find out of, 7 or so figures that were there. So, a lot of paint slop again, these are cheaper kind of mass retail figures, not really meant for the collector market, but again, just something to be aware of. Now I gotta remember how I put this back on. His mask. The mask is okay. It's a little silly. And I guess he gets some claws. Something in the series is he starts out kind of amnesia orphan and part of the tiger tribe that Cringer's a part of. So maybe that's kind of the look they're going for here, is with the claws and everything like that, which I get. So yeah, it's all right. I don't really. It looks a little funky, and again, I mean, added articulation is nice, but it's $20. So I think unless like your kid really digs this larger scale, I think you can pass on this one. But again, I haven't seen this armor in action yet, so I don't have any affinity for it. So maybe once I see it, like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever, and I really need it. But in hand, it's all right. It has the same action feature, so it has the kind of swing in action. How well the armor will stay on over time remains to be seen. But you can kind of mix and match and keep what you want. I don't like the helmet. That looks kind of stupid. I know my kids don't like me saying stupid. It's a bad word, but I don't really dig it. But still, I think kind of sans all the battle armor. I kind of like this look. And so I'm cool with that. I might just leave it without them. Maybe just put one armor on the hand there and kind of as a, or maybe put another one here. Kind of dig the little gauntlets. Those are really cool. It has the same, little tab on the back to put their sword on HeMan's back. So again, kind of cool, but I don't know if it's worth the $20. Unless maybe your kid's really into it. It depends how far also this larger scale line will go. I think that has something to do with it too. But I didn't like the way the man-at-arms looked. Maybe the Skeletor. Maybe just get a Skeletor and He-Man. We'll have to wait and see. It's not as bad in person as maybe those first pictures we saw of it led us to believe. So it's a pretty solid figure. But again, I think at $9 a piece, or under $10 a piece, I think these are the more desirable figures than this one. But I think that's kind of up to your own interpretation and opinion. But I think even with the balance issues of these, I kind of like the look and feel and design and scale of these ones better. All right, and now what I wanted to do was kind of compare the scale of these figures to give you a sense of how big they are at home. And where did my tape measure go? Here we go. So these are probably the smallest out of the main retail release. It is under 5.5 inches, which with the squattiness of the original He-Man figures, maybe it's a smidge taller than those. Let's see how that is. So about maybe the new one's a little bit taller, but it's about the same size as the vintage figures, which is nice. That means it is smaller than Origins by a little bit. And then if we go to, where did he go? Go to 2000X He-Man. Go bigger. It's definitely smaller than all of those. And then we can go Classics. And then Revelation. So there's all of your He-Man figures, right? That have been, I guess maybe not including NA or New Adventures of He-Man, but still pretty good selection and some diversity. Clearly, the new Netflix He-Man and the Masters of the Universe version of the character is the most unique. Every other one so far has kind of followed, a lineage to the original He-Man figure, which is fine because that's his classic look. But I like what they're trying here. I like that they are doing something new and having fun with it. It's a really fun show while having tons of call-outs. So see, I guess it's always been a problem with these things falling over. Tons of fun call-outs to the original series and toy line. There's a really funny joke I thought of about Snake Mountain and the microphone. Whenever you get to that one, I think you'll get a chuckle as well. But in terms of having something for the new generation that doesn't lean too heavily on the past and allows it to be something new while pulling a lot from the source material, I think is a great approach. And I really hope that this show does really well for Netflix so that they keep it going. I know my kids and all of us at home really love it as well. So there you have it. There are the new figures, or some of the new figures, from the new He-Man and the Masters of the Universe toy line. Let me know down in the comment section below what you thought of these figures, what you thought about the packaging, the unboxing experience, and kind of what we saw inside. For me, overall, I think they're really good looks of the characters, and I really have enjoyed the new show with my kids. And aside from Chapjaw not being able to stand up, and really kind of all of them being a little loose at the hips, those are the biggest criticism. But overall, I think at $10 a figure, they're still pretty solid, and hopefully Chapjaw is the only one that's kind of a victim of these looser hip joints. But overall, happy that I picked these up. I'm sure my kids will really dig them as well. Definitely check out some of my other videos. I've been posting a lot of MOTU recently. Check out my Triclops review, the mini comics version of Triclops for MOTU Origins, as well as check out another big unboxing video I did catching up on a ton of MOTU Origins figures. Check that out right here. And until next time, hasta luego and goodbye.